Surviving your first week in Project Zomboid can seem like a monstrous mountain to climb for new players, but with some time investment, some persistence, and most importantly, plenty of mistakes to learn from, you'll start to get the hang of things, and soon enough you'll be surviving at least a few days on the regular. So what comes next? In this series, I'll be teaching you everything you need to know about preparing for long-term survival in Build 42. And the best way to do that is not just to tell you, but to show you. I'll be jumping into a playthrough of my own that has seen just over 10 days since the game started. I'll talk through each of my priorities and decisions in real time, and by the end of it, you should be ready to make a good go of this yourself. This video will, of course, assume that you have at least a very basic understanding of how the game works and a little bit of experience. So if you're still struggling to make it past that first few days, I'd recommend taking a look at my other very similar series designed for brand new players. All that said, get those notepads ready. Let's dive in. Okay, so as you can see, we have a bit of a safe house here. I have picked a storage bin to give you a location on it. We are in West Point on the southeast side right now. Now, the focus is going to be on how we are going to go about prepping this for long-term survival. And one of the many needs that you have for long-term survival is water, hydration. Now it's raining right now, and I already have a few carpentry levels, and this is going to be the thing with your own playthroughs as well, because you've had a little bit of time to survive already. You might already have a bit of existing knowledge. Maybe your occupation helps you along with this. My occupation is carpenter, so I have some carpentry levels. If we're thinking long-term survival, carpenters are one of the best for this, because they can just build some of the stuff you'd otherwise have to spend some time learning. So what I would like to build is a rain collector. Need 4 garbage bags. We have some of those. Now, obviously, this isn't going to collect clean water. It's going to collect painted water, but that's okay. It's going to give us the water collection that we need, and then we can purify it. You also have the option of collecting water dispensers, and we'll cover that in a little bit more detail here in a moment. But first, let's get this rain collector built. You can see I need level 3 carpentry for this, which I have already. I either need 4 garbage bags or 1 tarp, whichever. Both work, and this is the second of the 2 options. The other option would be to get to level 5 and build a barrel, which will be better as higher capacity. But for now, a crate will work. Now this will fill up. You can see here I have 400 liters capacity. I will gradually fill up as it rains, and I will just gain passive water. I also has these troughs here, which you can see are filling up, but that's going to be for the use of our animals. In case you don't know how to purify water already, basically you can boil it, so cook a container of water until it becomes non-tainted. It's usually the easiest way to do that. Now, you can see here I have an empty dispenser bottle. Now, these can be collected from water dispensers. And these are great to collect while you're out and about. Again, we're talking preparing for the long term here, right? We've got a rain collector that's collecting stuff that we can purify, but we're also going to need ready drinkable water, and more importantly, somewhere to place that clean water when we've purified it. So, in this little office here, the edge of the complex, I believe there's a water dispenser. Yep. And I do need one for my base. So I'm just going to pick this up. If for any reason you can't pick these up, it's probably because you're carrying too much already and you just need to drop a little bit of weight. Easiest way to do that would be to drop my backpack, and that would usually work just fine. So I'm going to take this back to my base just so it's a bit easier to use. And you'll notice you want to keep an eye out as well while you're carrying heavier items. Not only is it damaging my health a little bit here, but I'm also gaining a bit of muscle strain. So you do just want to be careful. Just keep an eye on it. Should be fine as long as you don't do it for too long. So now we have water in my base, and while we're here, we're going to fill up my drinking bottle, but we have another empty container, so I need to go and fill this up. Now, we are 11 days into this playthrough, and to my knowledge, the water has not yet run out. But even as it has, water containers like sinks, baths, toilets, anything like that will hold some water even after the water runs out. It's like the stuff that's remaining in the pipes, right? So we're going to go and find tap. I believe there's one just next door at this little diner. We're going to fill this dispenser bottle, and then we've got one spare as well. And it's a good idea to do this before the water goes off, right? Because it's just free, clean water. We don't have to worry about purifying it. It's just saving us a bit of time. And our dispenser bottle. If you really want to help reduce the weight of something as well, like a dispenser bottle, just equip it and it will cut down the weight of the item. Especially if you equip it in like your secondary slot, I can still use a one-handed weapon in my main hand slot. Try the other door here. This one's locked. So I think we're going to have to break in. There is a chance that this will set off an alarm, which would be my luck. But it looks like we're okay on this one. Get this door open. Now, the water, like I say, I think it's still running. Yep. So it's going to fill it all the way to the top, and then we'll take this home with us. Now, while this is filling up, there's something else that we need to think about already. The water is done now. This is basically it. All you need to do is either when you're looting offices, look out for water dispensers. They'll often be in places like fire departments, police stations, office blocks, anywhere where you would think there's an office environment somewhere. There's a good chance there is a water dispenser with a bottle that you can take from it just by right-clicking it. But that's really all we need to do, is build a rain collector, collect water dispenser bottles. Your other option is if for any reason you can't build a rain collector yet, you can put large containers outside in the rain. So things like pots, cooking pots, bowls, anything like that will collect water while it rains. And that's basically it. But there's already something else that I want to consider, and that's fuel. Fuel is going to be a big one for us. It is probably one of the most important things that you need to think about, because eventually the power's going to run out. And if you haven't got a generator up and running by that time, all of your fresh food is going to rot. So we need to think about that sooner rather than later. And we have a bit of a plan as to how we're going to deal with that. Now, I've already gotten pretty lucky and I have a generator magazine, so I know how to use it. That said, the generator magazines are some of probably the rarest items in the game. They're very much sort of like you'll find people are looking for them for weeks at a time. I actually got incredibly lucky. We found one in the containers I think we were going to base in, and then I think we found 2 more in this complex, just in this complex alone. I don't know if there is something to do with this place that spawns more generator mags, but yeah, consider that a heads up. Check on the storage bins. If you didn't know already, generators, you can operate these now with either having the generator magazine, which I already have. If you don't have that or you can't find it, you can now operate generators from reaching level 3 in electrical. If you have level 3, you do not need the generator mag anymore. So the alternative is to get the skill books and then collect digital watches off of zombies like these, and you'll see just from me dismantling this electrical watch, I've got the 3 times multiplier, which is the maximum. We're going to dismantle this. We're at 13.5 XP right now. Dismantling 1 watch will get me up to 15 XP. And you can either just collect watches from dead zombies, radios, tapes, that sort of thing, and that will allow you to gradually build towards that level 3 in electrical that you need to operate a generator. Once we've done this, we need to think about 2 things. We need to think about fuel, and we need to think about securing a source of fuel after the power goes out, because one of the things that new players kind of neglect sometimes or you know don't think about is that not only is your power going to run out, but the gas station's power is going to run out, therefore you can't use the fuel pumps. Now, how can we get around this? The easy solution is just to hook up a generator at the gas station. So what we're going to do, I know somewhere in here, there it is, we have an extra generator. So we're going to grab this extra generator. And the thing is, if you find more generators around the place, like if we found one in here, I could just go to my map and we could find a little symbol like this one here and just add a little symbol here on my map and say generator, right? And then I know I can come back to this location later when it suits me to collect this generator, and just note them down as you go around, as you explore the map, and note down where you find these extra jennies, because now we're going to take this over to the gas station and hook it up. I've already got a can with a little bit of gas in it. So we're going to drive this down to the local gas station and just hook it up at the pumps. We had a bit of an incident, shall we say, with ragdoll physics on this one, where I plowed into a zombie. It got stuck on the bonnet and then went under the front wheels and completely trashed the entire front of my car. Ragdoll mechanics are just incredible. We have a little bit of gas, and a generator here. So this generator, we're going to drop this just here. We're going to connect it up. Now, you won't be able to do the connection step unless you have the generator knowledge from the magazine or from level 3 electrical. That's now connected. We're going to take this gas can and we're going to fill it up. Now, I believe the electricity is still on right now. So with that in mind, I am just going to fill up the gas can. I'm going to top this thing up entirely. So the goal here is to make sure that this generator will run for a good while. I don't need to do this, but might as well. I can just switch it on when I come by for fuel, and that will mean that you pretty much never have to worry about the condition of the generator. Now, something that's a bit more prominent in build 42 than it was in build 41 is that gas station supplies will eventually run out. In build 41, it wasn't something you really needed to worry about in any sense because there was still enough fuel that you'd have to be going for probably months to years before a gas station runs out. It's still not really something you're likely to bump into unless you survive for a very long time. But for this reason, it's a good idea to mark more than one gas station on your map and maybe hook up 2 or 3 with extra generators. Just set things up so that you're never going to come into a problem. So that's our fuel needs for the future sorted as well. The only other thing is if you need a little bit of fuel just to get you going and you can't seem to like find any, or the power's already gone off and you can't hook up generator, you can always check cars as well. So the way to do that is you need, I'll demonstrate it on my vehicle, you need your gas can and you need a hose. Now, I'm going to add the gas that we have just to demonstrate here. And then let's say I come across a vehicle. All I need to do is right click it and you'll see siphon gasoline comes up. And as long as you have a funnel and a rubber hose and a gas can, you can drain that gas and it'll at least give you enough to get going. So we've pretty much got water and gas secured for a good while. Now, if it were up to me, I would maybe say we could build like a couple of different rain collectors. Like having more than one is probably a good idea, having a couple. But we do also need to think about food as well. So, as you can see, I already have an ice freezer here. This is something that I put in my first series on surviving your first like week of Project Zomboid. You should try, where possible, to have an ice freezer. These are amazing little tools. They can be picked up. I think I want to say off the top of my head, I want to say they're 30 weight. You can often find these at gas stations. You can often find them in supermarkets. They are an incredible piece of equipment because they have 30 space in 2 slots. So you've got a grand total of 60 frozen space. It can benefit you to have a fridge as well if you have the room, and you'll probably have a fridge just anyway, wherever you pick as a base. But these freezers are going to store vast amounts of foods for a lot longer. Now, the big thing about long-term survival is taking the opportunities that present themselves to you. It's adapting to a situation. And there are a lot of different ways to tackle the food problem. I have a few options open to me. We could raid a supermarket. We could look for livestock at nearby farms. We could grow crops. We could start with the gathering skills, whatever we wanted to do. The big thing is making sure that we are prepared to seize an opportunity. Nearby, I have a Gigamart, which is just here. It is literally just up the road from me. So, with that in mind, what we can do, knowing that the power hasn't gone off yet, there's going to be a lot of frozen and refrigerated foods still at this supermarket that will be in usable condition because it hasn't had time to rot yet. 11 days is still quite a while, but I'm willing to bet that at least the frozen food is going to be in decent condition still. If you didn't know already, you can just hold down your aim key while you're in a vehicle and just kind of pan your camera around. I think this is going to be far enough for us to get in here safely. It doesn't look like there's any zombies coming in behind us. You can see here, there's a bunch of fridge freezers. You've also got your non-perishables in the shelves here as well. But I'm going to be focusing on the frozen and refrigerated stuff that's still in good condition. And the reason behind that is I know that will go off as soon as the power goes out. It's just a matter of saving what we can while we can. Calories and food has become a much bigger problem in build 42. Keeping on weight, you need to keep weights between 75 and 85 to stay in the mid-range. You go under or over that, you start to have like weight problems, which cause like reductions in stats. keeping calories on is a much larger problem than it was in build 41. So we're looking for high calorie items. Saving things like meat as well is really good because it's going to help us put on that weight. It's definitely very highly tuned right now to needing really fatty foods. I actually think there's probably something to be said that it's probably a little bit overtuned in that sense. We'll talk about livestock specifically and how we can get around those calorie problems here in maybe the next episode. But for this one, we're just trying to gather some of this food while we can. And I think it's gonna end up being tricky because we're getting a little bit tired now. But if we have to come back, that's also not a problem. We definitely need a little sit down. Our muscle strain is kicking in. Again, one thing I usually recommend as well with the muscle strain changes in build 42, it can help sometimes just to try and mix in some stomps with your attacks. Like use your, if they go down on the ground, use your stomps instead of your weapon. It's going to distribute that muscle strain to different parts of the body. But if they don't go down like that sometimes, especially when you're tired, you're going to have trouble with them hitting the deck. It's just unavoidable. It's going to happen. And it's just a matter of just not biting off more than you can chew. Take it slow. Acknowledge that, okay, good. Well, that was bound to happen to me at some point. We have a bit of a reputation for setting off alarms. And considering we're tired, we're just going to call that straight away a write-off and head back to base. It's not worth us risking that while we're sleepy. Tired as a Moodle can do some incredible damage to a character's stats. You can see all the zombies closing in on the building. But that's also not a terrible thing. So let's go ahead and mark that with a red skull, so we know there's going to be a lot of zombies there from now on. But what I will have done is drew in some zombies from the nearby area, so all of these locations now will have a bit less in the way of zombies. But unfortunately, that plan hasn't panned out for us, so we need to think about some other forms of food preparation we can do for our long-term survival. One of the best in build 41 was farming, but that's changed quite considerably in build 42 because there are now longer grow times and there are also growing seasons, which was something you didn't have to consider in build 41. To translate, crops take longer to grow and they will only grow at certain times of the year. We have here several seed packets that I've gathered already in my playthrough, and again, the matter of seizing what opportunities we have, right? So I've gotten lucky enough to find a bunch of seeds already. So I'm going to plant the ones that I think will give us food, actionable food that we can add to meals. So we're talking things like broccoli, cauliflower, onions, potatoes, sweet potatoes. I'm going to take these things. I'm going to take this trowel. We're going to take this watering can. And we're going to go plant some crops. Because of these growing seasons that have been added and how long it takes them to grow now, with it taking more time, you can't rely on farming as a reliable source of constant food. And the other thing that you're going to need to keep in mind as well is that food isn't going to be high calorie. Veggies are not going to be high calorie foods, which means that essentially this is more of a supplementary method than something we can rely on. It's considered a bonus to our usual, right? It's going to support our food stores. It's not going to give us everything we need. But considering we're tired, this is a good thing we can do because it's in the safety of our base and it does help you prepare. And if you're wondering why I'm putting 2 spaces between these, it's because if there are 2 spaces between planted crops, any diseases will not spread across 2 tiles. If there are 2 tiles in between, they will not spread. If there are only 1 space across from each other, it can jump. Now, I will say I am not 100% certain on whether that is still the case in build 42. That was always the reason people did it in build 41, but I will say I'm not 100% on that, so that is something that you may want to fact check. Now, as for growing seasons, you'll get these seeds in packets. You will need to make sure that you have read the packet or you will not know the growing season. You can see here it says seed packet zucchini teaches zucchini growing season, right? Without that, you will not know. There are also some magazines that will teach you these in batches. We're just going to open up a bunch of these seed packets because we've already read them. You can see that by the little tick, the little green check mark next to the icons. You can see here the planting seasons for broccoli are March, April, May, June, July, and August. And the best months are April and July. but the poor month is August. So we're getting towards the end of July right now, meaning that we've got a poor month coming up. This might work, but I want to review my other options here. Cauliflower is no good. The same goes to onions. Unfortunately, the same goes to potatoes. Sweet potatoes might work. Planting season July. So out of the ones we've got, really, our only options are broccoli and sweet potato. So we're going to go ahead and plant them. Now, formerly you required several seeds per patch, but in build 42, it is now just one seed per tile. That's our crops planted. So as long as we make sure we water them, then they will survive. The other thing you can do as well is fertilize them. And fertilizers will increase the yield of your crop patches, basically. Great use for our tainted watering crops. It doesn't need to be clean, so we can take that straight from the rain collectors. And also, I believe we should be able to fill from the troughs, yeah, which have already been filling in the rain. We don't have any animals right now, so we can use this water. Now, of course, if we're talking efficiency, best time to plant crops is when it's raining. You won't need to spend this time that I am spending watering crops. So if it's possible for you, plant crops while it's raining, I would advise it. Makes things a lot easier. This means you're going to have more time to do other things. And ideally, if it were possible, it's also a good idea to plant crops in a location where zombies will not be able to access them. They can trample crops. It probably won't be a problem. We're in a quiet area anyway. You know, this area, as you can see, is all been cleared. But if a zombie did decide that it wants to come and walk over my crops, it can trample them, which basically ruins them and makes them unusable. So if your base supports you planting crops elsewhere, then it's a good option. The other thing that we could do is we could use sacks and a trowel or a shovel, and you can actually dig up dirt, put it in a sack, and then move that dirt somewhere else. So we could place it inside the fence line here. And that would allow me to plant crops inside in a protected area. But it's really not going to be, it's not really going to be too much of a problem for us. We're going to fertilize our crops and we're going to water them. And then I think that is pretty much going to be our preparation on day one. You can see how long this has taken us, and it really sort of enforces how important it is to make these long-term preparations pretty much as soon as you've survived maybe like your first few days or your first week, right? You want to be keeping an eye out for any opportunities that arise while you're looting, and start thinking towards the long term as you're playing, so that when you get to the point where we are now, where we're just over 11 days into the schedule, I've already got water solved for the next couple of weeks, if not longer. We've already got the gas station hooked up with a fuel supply, and we're already getting to the point where we've got some food. My concern from here is food, and we are going to need to get our hands on some high calorie foods, because as you can see, I am losing weight. So I think next time, that's what we will target. We will target some high calorie food opportunities. We'll talk about how you can set those up with various different skills, various different looting opportunities, what we should be looking out for, what foods are worth gathering, worth making. But for now, we know that at least we aren't going to starve, because we've got some food already, and we've already planted some fresh veggies. Something else that's always worth looking out for if you're planting crops, keep an eye out for farming magazines. Farming magazines can give you a lot of knowledge when it comes to dealing with different types of diseases that your crops may get. So you can get things like, I think it's mildew and flies, stuff like that. Knowing how to deal with those things is very important. There's a really handy little wiki page as well available that will give you all of the treatment types for those different diseases. I believe there is one disease that you can't do anything about, and the name of it eludes me right now, but there is one particular disease that your crops can get that is not curable, and it just means you have to dig up that crop before it spreads to a different one. It's devil's water fungi. So devil's water fungi, if your crops get devil's water fungi, it cannot be treated, and you essentially just need to dig it up, unlike flies and mildew, which can be treated. So that's something to keep in mind if you're planting crops. Howdy everyone, Duck from the present here. Just want to quickly jump in before part 2 begins and say a huge thank you to our sponsor for this video, PC Specialist, the leading custom PC manufacturer in Europe for gamers, content creators like myself, and even working professionals on the move. Once you've chosen your dream PC from the easy-to-use configurator on their website, the team will assemble and rigorously test your machine to ensure everything is as it should be when it arrives, and that comes with some very clean cable management too. I chose to go with PC Specialist for my own rig, and I can confidently say that I made the right choice. Placing my order was easy, I was notified of any incompatible parts way in advance so I could choose a replacement, and it was delivered to my door with all the frustrating setup already done for me. All I had to do was switch it on, and it's worked a treat ever since. If your rig is showing its age and it's time for an upgrade, use my link down in the description and enter code ATOMIC at the checkout for £30 off all configured systems. Thanks again to PC Specialist. Let's get back to today's video. Okay, so we're back on the second day of this playthrough. Now, I've played a day in between these two episodes just to kind of try and acquire some equipment so I can talk through some stuff a little bit better. But we're going to start off, we're going to be talking about calories, the importance of calories in build 42 compared to build 41, and how to acquire some food sources for the long term. Now, we've already talked about crops in the last one and how it's basically a supplementary measure and can't be relied upon. As you can see, my character is hungry and I am losing weight. Now, if this falls below 75, I will get an underweight debuff, if you like, in my traits, and it will have negative effects on my statistics. So we want to keep this between 75 and 85. In order to do that, we need calories. High calorie foods are very important and also kind of difficult to find in comparison to most of the other stuff. So what we're going to do, right, I'm taking a simple item, a sandwich, and I'm going to attempt to add some stuff to it that will make it more calories for me to consume. So I'm making a ham sandwich. We're going to add cheese, because it's another ingredient that I've got here. Simple. So it's already 25 hunger. It's already going to help with my unhappiness. Right here I have mayonnaise, which is worth 3,000 calories. And I will say, eating this whole is not actually as bad of an idea as you might think. As you can see, the boredom and unhappiness stats from downing a bottle of mayonnaise is actually not terrible. So we could do that if we wanted to, and then try and offset it with some like reading of books or something like that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some mayonnaise to my sandwich instead. And I'm also going to add some butter, which, as you can see here, is also worth a rather high amount of calories. That was like 2,600 and something before I cut it down there. So now my ham and cheese sandwich has become something with way more calories in them. We can add some barbecue sauce here. It's also making me happier because of all the things I'm adding to it. Probably not going to bump my weight up straight away, but that is a good high calorie option. And it's just about adding those to your meals wherever you can, right? To try and get the calories up. Now, that wasn't enough, so I'm going to pick a high calorie food from in here that I can consume. So let's see what we've got. So we've got some chips. We'll take a couple of those with us. I've already got one in my bag. Canned corned beef, mac and cheese. I think we had cereals, didn't we? I swear I had. Here we go. Cereals, 2,360 calories. So let's get that out of here and let it defrost. That 2,360 calories is going to be amazing for us. Just let it defrost in our bag. I'll have a bag of chips in the meantime. And I will say as well, when you're looting buildings, if your weight is going down and you would just be leaving items behind, don't just leave them behind, eat them. You know, if you see a soda when you're looting a store and your calories, you're underweight, you're losing weight, just drink the soda instead of leaving it behind. It's not going to fill your character up, but it's certainly going to add calories. And it's just taking opportunities like that, again, seizing the opportunities that are there for you. Now, one big thing that we need to think about is long-term food supply. And I think the easiest way for us to do that is to get ourselves a little farm going. As you can see, I've already kind of built myself a chicken coop here. I'll drive past it here in a second. We needed carpentry 3 for the chicken coop. You only need carpentry 1 for the feeding troughs. We've built the slightly larger ones, and that does require level 3. But we have marked some crucial equipment on my map already from earlier in my playthrough. There is a livestock trailer over here. We're going to pick that up, and then we're going to go pick up some chickens. Why chickens? Firstly, well, 1, because they're easy to look after, don't require a lot of space, and they supply us with daily eggs. We will gain eggs on a daily basis. They're also good for meat if we want to, you know, cull off some extra ones. right? But realistically, we're just going to keep them for eggs. Turkeys, you might be thinking, will be an option. Unfortunately, turkeys' laying seasons start in spring. I believe they generally go through until about May. And unfortunately for you, if you're on default settings and haven't changed this, your playthrough starts in July. So you would be keeping turkeys for an entire year almost before they start laying their eggs. It's not generally worth keeping them unless you're doing so for meat or for feathers, if you really want to get into some crafting. They're great for meat, but their eggs don't really pay off as far as that goes. Let's see if we can hook this thing up. There we go, to the step van. There we go. Oh, okay, well, that's not what I wanted, but it might actually work for us a little bit here. Try this again. I'm sure that's fine. Don't worry about that metal crunching sound effect. Although I will say, it doesn't seem to want to play ball in terms of physics. Yeah, the tires are screwed. So we don't have the trailer. That's actually not the end of the world, especially considering we are going out in search of chickens. Realistically, we only really need to bring 1 or 2 back with us. It did damage the back of the vehicle, unfortunately, but that's all right. Realistically, we only need to bring back 1 or 2 chickens, but I do want to very quickly go out and grab some milk from cows here. We're going to talk about cows for a minute because they're also one of the best animals in the game that you can keep, essentially because they produce milk, and that milk can be turned into butter using a butter churn. You can make those with 2 planks, nails, and a hammer. Now, I think we have all that material with us, so we should be able to build one on the go when we get to these cows, and I will actually show you how easy it is to make butter. And obviously, butter being so high calorie is great if you're trying to put on weight. Speaking of which, let's eat our cereal, and we'll see if that helps us. I have let my character slip quite a bit. There we go. Calorie just like that. Our weight's going up instead of down now. Obviously, we will need to sustain that. But that gives you an idea of how many calories you actually need to fill your character with in order to get the weight going up. It can be quite tricky. It's one of the biggest issues with survival in build 42 right now is calories. And as we talked about earlier, planting crops, you know, those crops just aren't going to be calorie-filled foods, which is why finding some animals, getting some actual produce going in that sense is going to really help supplement those calories. And if you ever want a quick way to check how many animals are in a zone, just right click on the ground, pull the zone up, and you can see here that we've got 2 animals in this area. So butter churn, 2 planks, 2 nails, and a hammer. No carpentry skill required for a butter churn. That could change if you're watching this as build 42 gets a bit further along. Now, to make 1 butter, we need 5 liters of cow milk. Leave this. Let's see. We need to make sure we're not going to approach a male. This is a female, so we should be able to milk this female. I don't know, it might not have any young. No, it doesn't seem to have any young right now. Now that's a bull, so we don't want to go near that. So that's actually not going to work out for us, which is a bit of a shame. So essentially what I want is a female that has young. So we need basically a larger field of cows. I'm going to have a quick look around here just to see if we can find any other cows in the area. Thinking about it, I believe I have some cartons of cow milk back at the base that we can use for our little demonstration. But I guess it's sometimes just how it goes, you know, you lay a plan down and things don't pan out. And I think that's why it's important to know about so many of the different ways to gather food in build 42, because prepping for the long term is difficult sometimes. And not everything's going to work out first time. Now, since we're out here, we'll have a look at a different way of gathering food that I think is worth mentioning. I do just want to keep an eye on those zombies. Foraging has always been a very, very powerful skill since the foraging system was changed. But farmland especially can be incredibly useful for finding food sources. That can then be paired with the trapping skill to get you even more. So we're going to forage. You see here, food is common in farmland. I haven't got any skills in foraging, so whether we'll find anything is up for debate. But once you start to get a couple of levels in it, and the thing with foraging as well is it's very easy to level up in. Foraging is one of those skills that, I would guess, again, I would consider it more of a supplementary thing. But if you're living in an area with a lot of farmland in Project Zomboid, then you should definitely consider giving it a try if you're looking to get yourself some long-term food supplies. Unknown item. Okay, so this is a bit of an Easter egg item. Pack of hot dogs. Look at that. It's a rotten pack of hot dogs, but we found a pack of hot dogs in the middle of a field. Amazing. Could be used for fishing bait if we wanted to. If we were interested in doing some fishing anytime soon, rotten foods can be used. And then on top of that, we can then use that for the trapping skill to bring in animals. And one of the key things about the trapping skill in build 42 is that trapping now acquires live animals. So, you know, you could start trapping, use some snare traps or a box trap or whatever you have the ability to make. And you might find that you catch a live rabbit, and then you can start a little rabbit farm if you want to. There are options available to you. Here we go. Some herbs, cilantro, and you see there we picked cilantro. Now, obviously, it's just a herb. It's not really going to give us much in the way of food. But this is a crucial thing. When you go foraging, you will also tend to get seeds with the food that you find. So if you find, like, let's say, I don't know, a potato or an onion or something like that in the wild, you're also going to get seeds with it, which can then be used back at your base to create more food for your long-term efforts. Now, it's coming up to 4 p.m., so I want to head back to the vehicle now, and we're going to get ourselves a chicken. If I can load one into the truck, I might get 2, but I don't think you can do that without a livestock trailer. Now, those chickens have a bit too many zombies around us, so we're going to go to the first set, closest to the safe house that I know of. Some pigs. Pigs can make for okay food sources. Honestly, it's another one of those animals that they're not producing anything for you, really. You can get some good leather for crafting, but they're not producing anything for you, really, other than meat. So if you have no other option, pigs can be decent, but personally, I'd go for chickens or cows every day. Might be worth checking those feeding troughs also, see if we can get some food from it, but really, all we need is a chicken. Might be some good farming supplies in here, actually. There's nothing wrong with just pulling up and basing at a place like this, because honestly, you know, you'd have everything you need on your back porch, really. Bellows, that's quite rare. Quite rare indeed. If we were getting into some blacksmithing. Right, so I need to identify some, yep, so this is a female hen. They will do nicely. I'm going to see if we can put it in the vehicle, but I don't think we can. But the bonus of having this chicken is that it will lay an egg for us every single day. If we wanted young, of course, if we wanted to hatch those chickens, then we could have a male as well. But to be honest, unless you're thinking of having chicks specifically, you could just keep a flock of females. So we carry the chicken home with us. It shouldn't damage me being overweight while we're sat in a driver's seat. Also, if you end up with fertilized eggs as well, like you have a male, and you don't want that chicken to develop, you just want the egg, right? Best thing you can do is throw them in the freezer. Chicken's not going to hatch if the egg's in the freezer. It did when Build 42 first launched and made for some hilarious Reddit posts of chicks being born in freezers. Not anymore. Now it works as intended, and you can just throw them in the freezer to keep them from hatching. Once we get this back to our safe house, we'll talk a little bit before we sleep about how to look after them, and that's pretty simple. Okay, so pulling up on base again here. Still got our chicken in hand. Let's go introduce it to its new home. Oh, the zombie's gonna follow me in as well. That's gonna be really frustrating. Oh no, just stack them on the fence instead. I forgot about that new mechanic. Should be fine. We don't need to worry about that for quite some time yet. Okay, so what we're going to do, animal zone. We draw this in the area we want the animal to be. Create zone. We can rename that whatever we like. So we'll call this Chimkins. This is now the home of our Chimkins. We drop our red hen, and it will now live in this zone. When we right click on the zone, you can see here, this is now in there. It may be stressed to start with. I'm going to give them a little pet, make sure they're well looked after. Go into bed. Right, so this is something that's important to keep track of. And as you can see, it's already laid an egg for us. Literally, we've dropped it off. It's gone indoors. It's already laid an egg. And that's how useful they can be. I don't know where this zombie is going or what he's doing with his life. Couple things to bring up about this. This hutch, whether it is open or closed, will not make a difference in an average playthrough. However, there is a sandbox option that will add predators, meta predators, to the game. If you have predators in your playthrough, you need to ensure that at night you are closing the door and opening it again come morning. Otherwise, a predator may get in during the night. Now, you may think that having this on tarmac might be a problem. It's not really an issue as long as there is food in the feeding troughs. I believe one of these has food. Feeding trough info. Might be bugged because I don't seem to be able to empty this one, but we did have some food. But anyway, as long as the chicken is given food and water in one of the troughs, they'll be fine, they'll be happy. So all that leaves us to do really is build a gate. I don't think I can actually do, so we'll just do a fence. And again, just as a reminder, to build these troughs, all you need is either level 1 carpentry for the short one or a level 3 for the long one. And for the chicken coop, which is for some reason called a hutch, you will need level 3 carpentry and again, just some basic supplies. So nice and easy. Not really that difficult to set up. And now we will have eggs on a constant supply. The difficulty with my location as a base here is that we are operating out of a storage bin. So I don't actually have an antique stove. I have a microwave that's hooked up to the power currently. If you want to avoid using power or your fuel when the power goes out, you can search for an antique stove. It's like a big old thing. And it will use more traditional fuel sources like wood instead. This isn't going to make me particularly happy, but these items will cook quickly. So 9 hunger each. Nice and straightforward. I mean, that's 2 eggs already from 1 chicken. You think if you've got a couple of different chickens, maybe 3 or 4, you're going to be gaining quite a lot each day. And it's really easy to look after them, to take care of them. If animals don't have access to a feeding trough with feed in it, something you may want to consider is placing them on a grass surface. They will eat grass in their zone if their feeder is not filled with food. So they will know at least to consume grass in the area. Something else also to consider is if a zombie gets within range of our chickens here, it may stress him out and they will look to escape. So that's something to keep in mind, and that's why we obviously build these fenced off areas. Any sort of stress caused by zombies, caused by lack of food, anything like that, and they will look for an exit. So having that fence is going to stop them leaving if a zombie shows up. Here we go. Very nice. Okay, full to bursting. Okay, so because we weren't able to milk a female cow because they didn't have any offspring, what I've done is I've just spawned a bucket full of cow milk. And I just want to very quickly sort of show how this works. So here's our butter churn here. Because a bucket of milk is 10 liters, we can get 2 sticks of butter. And it does take quite a while to churn. So while butter is an incredibly useful thing, it does take a minute. We're going to skip some time here. You can see we're already closing in on like midday. So we'll just do the 1. And then from that, we have a stick of butter, which is 3,200 calories. If you've got stuff to make you, shall we say, happy again, you can just eat that as it is, but it is going to make you quite unhappy. You got to make sure you got the right stuff for that, or you can just add it to meals. Today, we're going to look at a couple more options we've got available to us, which is fishing and trapping. So we're going to start with fishing. So I've already picked out a fishing spot for us to go to today. Fishing is quite a time-intensive thing in Build 42. It always has been. Now there's obviously the extra mini-game element to it in Build 42. Whereas in Build 41, if you're unfamiliar, basically you just stood there and let fishing happen. Now there's actually like some skill to it. Now at lower levels, fishing isn't going to be a skill that pays off greatly for you. I do want to just kind of show fishing today, so you know about it, but keep in mind, we don't really have any skills in it, I don't think. Right, so we have 1.5 levels in fishing, so our results aren't going to be great, but as you start to level up the fishing skill, you really do start to see a difference in that. It's one of those skills that if you put the investment in and actually maybe use life and living to get to like level 3 in the early stages, if you read a book and do some fishing yourself, you're going to get like some huge payoffs as you start to get those levels. Now, a little known tip about fishing, you actually get better results if you are at least 7 tiles which is these squares here. You can use the placement and pick up things for this. If you are at least 7 tiles away from land, you will have better fishing results in terms of the size of the fish and also the frequency at which you get a bite. So having one of these pre-built docks is really, really helpful, or you can build one yourself just using wooden floors, and it will support your fishing goals. Now, if I was planning on using this spot permanently, what I'd probably suggest doing is building a little wall behind you, just so that you're safe while you're doing fishing. So you can see on the water to my right, there are like ripples in the water's surface. Those symbolize active fishing spots. Those are the bits we want to aim for. You're most likely to have success there. And just as a quick note as well, in build 41, we were able to fish with spears. That is no longer available in build 42. Obviously, because of the new fishing mechanic, how actively involved you are, I guess they just haven't drawn anything up for spear fishing yet. So now I'm going to grab a fishing line or fishing hook, and I've got a selection of baits here. Now, rotten food can be used as bait, where otherwise you probably wouldn't use the rotten food, right? You wouldn't get any use from it. So if you want to make use of rotten meats, I believe it is meats specifically. I don't think you can do this with vegetables. It has to be meat. You get rotten meat, then just use it as fishing bait, because otherwise you aren't going to use it. So holding right click to aim, and then I'm just going to left click to cast in wherever I want. Now holding left click will reel it in. So I can do that. We've got something on the line. Now all I'm going to do is reel in with left click. And if I get any resistance, I can hold right click to let out, but I probably won't. So I'm just tapping left click, feathering it, if you will. Easily done. Junk item. So at these low levels, this is probably what we're going to get more of. It is possible to overfish an area as well. That is something to keep in mind. If you fish frequently in the same spot, you will overfish it, and you'll find that you won't get any bites of actual fish. If that happens, just go away for like 24 hours, give it a day, let it regenerate, and then come back. And I'm just keeping it out of the colored areas of the bar, because if we go in those colored areas, we're likely to see the line break. Okay, so we caught a small bluegill. We actually got a fish. These are going to be really, really small. You can see here, it's only like 2 hunger reduction. Now that's going to be most of the results you get at this kind of level. So it really is a case of like spending some time leveling your fishing, and then hopefully you can build things up a little bit. The problem with fishing, especially right now, is that it's going to be very time intensive for us. If you haven't got your fuel or your water situation sorted, then I would recommend leaving fishing until you have, because the amount of time this takes, you could be setting up a gas station to give you fuel for when the power goes out, or getting some water sources for when the water mains shut off. Now, another thing to keep in mind about fishing, obviously we haven't been able to replicate this right now, but between the hours of 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., or 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., so dawn or dusk, you will see a 20% better chance of catching fish. And that is confirmed as up to date for build 42. And we haven't actually got any resistance on any of these yet, which is a shame, because I did want to kind of show that. But if you do get resistance, your line on the bar there will shoot up into the orange or red areas. You just need to hold right click to give them some slack until they stop fighting. Once you reach November, you'll see a 20% reduction of fishing success chance until the end of February. That's to simulate like winter conditions. Another small bluegill. So you can see here we're getting some small fish. We're just not really getting anything worth having. Now, how much XP has that given us? Not a lot. I think we got about 15 XP. And I will say that XP gains directly relates to the size of the fish you catch. So if you catch a bigger fish, you'll gain more XP. So if you can watch that Life and Living show in the early stages, especially if you can find a fishing book beforehand, it's going to set you up better for this. But it is a reliable way of getting food. It just takes a lot of time investment. So now we're going to get back on the road, and we're going to go do some trapping. Okay, so having spawned myself in a handful of carrots, which is the best bait available for catching rabbits, surprise to nobody, we're going to build some traps and we're going to head out. Now, you can only catch them between 7 p.m. and 5 a.m. Rabbits are best caught over like dawn and dusk. So we want to try and build those traps before then and get them out there. All right, so it's getting late. We are getting tired, but I'm hoping we can get these traps down without many issues. Now, if you're wondering why I'm driving away to place these traps, it's because we need to place them at least 75 tiles away from activity. That includes player activity and zombie activity. Zombies will be drawn to the noise of traps as well if they're in the area. They will destroy traps. So I'm going to head out along this railway here, and we're looking for a deep forest biome at least 75 tiles away. Now, if you're having trouble finding out what is a deep forest biome, then just use the foraging menu. Now, you go foraging. I'm in organic forest here. We're going to place them here. Deep forest is the best, but regular forest works too. So we're going to place our crate traps here. Again, the best times for us to place these traps down is 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. That's when rabbits can be caught. Now, each hour that passes after we place these traps, there is a chance that the trap will break. You don't want to leave them too long before you check on them, because every hour there is a chance that they will break. So what we're going to do is just place all of these down. Doesn't matter how close they are. Doesn't make any difference at all. We're going to add carrots as bait to every single one. And then we just leave them. That's it. There needs to be a full hour between when there was activity in the area if there's a chance for them to catch. Also worth noting that the bait we use has to be fresh. If you are using vegetables as bait, it must be fresh. And it checks every hour to see if that bait is still fresh. That's actually why cereals can be a good bait if you're not planning on checking on things in a while. Now we go to sleep and we will check on our traps in the morning. All right, it is 8:30. Ideally, if I really wanted to make sure that I had the most chances of getting a catch, I would have gone and done so at about, or checked on them at about 5 a.m. because that's the last, 5 a.m. is the last time it can catch something. We're still pretty early, so I don't think this will be an issue. We'll go check on our traps. And the great thing about this as well is that long after you've exhausted food sources in the area, trapping will always work. Trapping will always be a thing you can do. As long as you keep the vegetables flowing for bait, trapping will always be available to you. And what's good about that is that you can then repurpose some of that meat. If it goes off, you can use it as fishing bait, for example, and catch different meat. There's multiple options available to you. It is really just about, as you're seeing in this playthrough firsthand, picking a few things to do and not putting all your eggs in one basket. You know, really, I wanted to go to that Gigamart, but there was an alarm, it drew too many zombies, so now I'm looking at alternatives. And it's just a matter of picking a few things that might work for you based on your circumstances. We got what looks to be a little raccoon, a baby raccoon. Now, this is live, so we can actually rehome this. If we wanted to, we could start a livestock farm. Now, I've made a mistake here, and I've not actually brought a sharp implement with me that I can kill the animal with. Not a great demonstration. We'll check on our other trap. Hopefully we got a rabbit. Oh no, I think this is a big raccoon, is it? Ah, okay, we caught a large raccoon. This is a fully grown adult. I feel bad. Maybe we caught the mum and the baby. All right, so we're going to take this back to base, and I'll show you how much meat this will be worth. I feel a little bit of a monster, I'm not going to lie. I feel a little bit of a monster capturing the baby and the mum, and only taking the mum. But we do what we must to survive. Sorry, raccoon. I'm sorry. I believe because this is a small animal, we don't need a butchering hook. This is where multiple different elements of Build 42 come in, because the butchering skill would be much better if it were higher up. If we had a better butchering skill, we would get better cuts of meat here. But this isn't too bad. Once these have been cooked, they'll probably be worth 10 hunger each. And we got 4 of them. And that's just from one raccoon. You know, you can think if you have multiple traps available and you're catching rabbits, rabbits will be worth more meat. So that is trapping and fishing simplified. Hopefully you got something useful from that. Okay, so I think the next thing on my list is, I've got 2 things really, is I want to get a composter. I also want to get an old stove or an antique stove. And I think I know where one of those is pretty locally, pretty close by to us. So we're going to start off with the composter. Reason for getting these is that it allows us to stockpile fertilizer. So basically we can make our own fertilizer with the composter. Now, if I was really sort of min-maxing my day here, I could do this at the evening time when my character's already starting to get tired, just to reduce the risk that I'm going to be in a fight when I start to get tired. But I'm not too worried about that right now. That should give us everything we need. And to make things easier, I'll just build it by our crops here. Now, this is going to be empty to start with, and we need to fill this with vegetables. Now, rotten vegetables will create fertilizer in a composter. There is several locations around the map that we can use to aid us in that endeavor. There are some, shall we say, I don't know how you would refer to them, like storage warehouses, silos, whatever you want to call them, where basically farmers have stored their produce in big sacks. So what we're going to do is, now that it's the zombie apocalypse, we are going to hit one of those storage silos, and it will be filled with vegetables. And they won't be rotten yet, but they will be soon. But I do have another thing on my list, and that's the antique stove. That is very close by to our base. We're looking okay on storage. So we're heading to the location of an antique stove nearby. Now, these are usually set locations on the map, so you can use things like the Build 42 online map to find them. Otherwise, they do also spawn in like just wooden crates and stuff like that. There should be an antique stove in here. There it is. We need a hammer to pick these things up. They are also quite heavy. You'll see here they're 40 encumbrance. So you do kind of have to be prepared to take one of these. And again, as with most heavy items, if you're carrying less than 10 weight in your direct inventory, you will be able to pick one up. If you're struggling, you can drop stuff like your backpack is usually the best way to do it. Okay, these zombies are going to be a pain, but I am going to need to get rid of them because I'm not going to be able to pick up that old stove without these guys gone. There are a couple of them, but I think they're going to take a moment. Let's get this thing back to the truck. Okay, stove acquired. Nice and easy. Now we're going to head out, and we're going to try and get ourselves some vegetables for our composter. So the reason we're acquiring an antique stove, just in case anybody needs a reminder, is because they don't use fuel. They don't use petrol, gas, whatever you want to call it. And that means that it's not going to run down our fuel supply by having one. We can chop up firewood, which is really, really handy in the long run because you will want to preserve your fuel over time. Now, I'm not sure if this is full of fresh produce, but these are the sorts of buildings that you're looking for. They'll look like this. They are long, white buildings usually. They have these big garage doors and a bunch of crates in them. Hopefully there's no alarm on this one because that would be my luck. Okay, we're good. Produce box, extra small. Here we go. So as you can see, they have large quantities of veggies in them, and because we've already passed quite a bit of time, they're already rotten. Now, ordinarily, that wouldn't be much use to a survivor, but because we have that composter, it basically means we don't need to allocate any of our own foods to go rotten. We can use this stuff instead. So I'm looking for, primarily, what I want is large ones. But really, I can just start grabbing all of this because all of these rotten fruits and veg can be used for our composter. Ideally, what you'd want to do when coming to a location like this is you'd want to have an empty vehicle. But I've obviously doubled this up with one of our other objectives. Now my vehicle is full. You'll also notice that the potatoes we got from in there are still fresh. Just to briefly touch on why that is, potatoes have a longer shelf life, if you like, than pretty much every other vegetable in the game. So when you come to these places, there will often be potatoes that are perfectly good to eat, even though a significant amount of time has passed. Ooh, large produce box. Okay, lettuce, nice. If you can manage to get to one of these like very early on in the game as well, like if you get lucky enough to, I don't know, find an ice freezer really early on and you get a vehicle very early as well, these places can make for amazing locations to hit early on. Because this food does not spawn rotten, I don't believe. Much of it is fresh when the game starts. It's just because it's in an unrefrigerated environment, it rots very, very quickly. So if you can get here early enough, it can be very beneficial. Okay, I think this is enough. So now we're back to base. We'll go fill up our composter. And once we get back to base as well, I think one other thing that I really want to do is I need to make a chopping block as well so that we can cut some firewood. There was actually a new thing added in Build 42, which allows you to cut logs into firewood, and that firewood allows for a longer burn time in your like antique stoves or campfires. Okay, here we are. We're gonna grab our rotten veggies, as many as I can anyway. Now, this isn't going to give us fertilizer instantly. It does take time to manufacture. Another really nice thing about these composters as well is that not only will they provide us with fertilizer, the rotten food within will actually attract worms as well. So when you come back to your composter occasionally, you'll find that there are worms within it. And the reason why that's so powerful is because then we can use those worms as bait for fishing. So it's got 20 weight. We've stocked this thing pretty good. Important to note as well, you can only use, like if you want to generate fertilizer in a composter, it needs to be fruit and vegetables. It's vegetable content. I don't believe that meat and rotten meats actually generate compost. For some reason, this is actually kind of a fun piece of trivia, if nothing else. So the old stove in build 41 was known as the antique stove. It was only changed in build 42 to the old stove. Why that was necessary, I don't know, but it's an interesting piece of trivia. Right, I don't think I have any room for this. I think I'll put it there. We're gonna have to move some stuff. So for now, let's just go ahead and place this here. Then we can reposition this later. Now, there was one other thing I wanted to look at, and that is the chopping block. So we just need a log and a flint saw. Surely that can be swapped out, no? That doesn't show it can be swapped out for other saws. And that is very weird. I did not realize that was the case. So how do we make a flint saw? I need napping level 3. Right, well, in that case, we're not going to have a chopping block in this playthrough. I can maybe use the debug mode to create one further up, but essentially it allows you to chop wood, and that wood will burn for longer than regular wood. And it just allows you to stock up your antique stove so it burns for longer in a single use. But for now, let's get some sleep. Okay, so having had a bit more of a look into this, I believe that the chopping block is actually bugged slightly. So it should show that this is replaceable by other items in the UI. But now that I've picked up a hacksaw, it is showing as I have the necessary item. It should show that I can click on this and see what other items are viable, but it's not allowing that. So I think this might be bugged. So this is a workbench, meaning that you need to right click on it to interact. And as you can see, a bunch of stuff comes up here. Really, really overwhelming. But what we're looking for is firewood. So as you can see, one log gets separated into 6 firewood and wood splinters. I believe the wood splinters can be used as tinder. I think, if I'm not mistaken. But crucially, this firewood will burn longer than anything else. So really, really good workbench to have if you're using an old stove. Our plan now is to make ourselves a plumbed in sink. Now, I've already gone ahead and chopped down some trees to make ourselves some stairs, but I need to basically go and get a sink. I think we need a pipe wrench and a wrench, or just a pipe wrench, actually, I think will do. So we'll go grab one of those and then we'll get started. Now, I'm hoping that our van holds out for us for at least a little while, but I believe there's a couple of houses just sort of like the next street over that we can check out, and we should be able to get a sink from one of these houses. I think I'm going to look for a standing sink. Now, because it doesn't really matter what type of sink you go for, having a sink inside of a container will obviously help you maximize space. For me personally, I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm going to try and find a standing sink. Here we are. Okay, yes, so with a pipe wrench, we can pick this up. Excellent. Okay, good. Let's get this thing loaded into the truck and get back to base. We can start setting up our plumbed-in sink. Now, if you're wondering why I'm doing this, because you might just be thinking, well, why can't I just use water dispensers or the rain collectors that we have set up already? The reason why is that by collecting a rain collector to a sink, you're actually ensuring a source of clean water. So it doesn't work quite the same as regular rain collectors. Even though it's collecting tainted water, that water will come out the sink as clean. So it's incredibly useful to have at least one of these plumbed in. And the sooner you can get these set up, the better, because ultimately, you know, we want to give it a chance to fill up before we start using it. So if like right now, the water is still on, which is great, and should allow our rain collector to fill up a little bit. Now, I've already chopped a bunch of logs over here. We're going to grab those. Now, of course, the biggest thing is to build our rain collector, I need access to the roof. And to gain access to the roof, I'm going to need stairs. Now, in build 42, you built regular wooden stairs for that. Now, there are log chairs, which require carpentry level 3. Or log stairs, rather, not log chairs. But we need carpentry level 3 for this. So what we're going to do, we're just going to start grabbing these and throwing them in the back of the truck. So we're also going to consider winter clothing. So how best to deal with winter. And I believe we're also going to talk about alternative food preservation. There isn't much in that respect right now, but there is a way to preserve food without a fridge. Okay, right, let's start dropping these here. It's gonna take a couple runs. That's okay. We're gonna build a lot of muscle strain here as well. In our upper and lower torso, our character will probably need to rest after this is done. That's all right. Okay, let's go ahead and drop these planks just here. Take a very short rest. All right, I'm not too worried about damaging my character too much because essentially when we're done here, we're going to get like the whole night to rest. So I'm not too worried, even though we're taking a little bit of damage. We're going to have like quite a lot of time to rest this out afterwards. So the main thing for now is just getting these stairs built. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to react to this like type of roof. So we might fall through this. Oh, we're okay. Okay, it is a little bit janky up here though. We do have to be careful. Now, when it comes to building the rain collector, you want to build it in imagine a 3x3 square around your sink, one floor above. So this tile here at the top where my character is currently stood, the tile my character is currently stood on would be the center of that 3x3 square. This tile would be fine. Likewise, this tile would be fine to place the rain collector. And if there were supporting rooftops, then obviously row of 3 either side here would also be fine. Let's get ourselves our rain collector set up. I'm gonna need 4 garbage bags. Now we're gonna place this right here. You know what? I'll place it one adjacent just so we can show that the 3x3 should work. Now that is now just going to collect rain. It is not currently connected. Now the last step of the process is we have to connect or plumb in the sink. So as you can see here, I right click. It will use the pipe wrench, which is the required item. And now my sink is plumbed in. And as you can see, it says empty rain collector. So it is hooked up to the rain collector now. This will give me running water. And more importantly, it's going to be clean. As far as I'm concerned, this base is now self-sufficient. We have our rain collector. We have extra rainwater being collected for our animals. We have our chickens. We have a butter churn. Our feeding troughs are full of water. We've got an ice freezer, a generator. We've got fuel. We've hooked up a gas station nearby. Realistically, this safe house is now at the point where it's pretty much self-sufficient. So what's next? What happens when your base is self-sufficient and you've basically got to look to the future? Well, this is where the threat of winter becomes your next concern. And the biggest thing about winter, of course, is the reduced temperatures. Crops might experience some difficulty growing in certain months of winter, but otherwise you're probably going to be okay as long as you layer up a little bit. And we'll show you soon where to go to get the best like sort of layered clothing for winter. While we wait for daytime to come around, I want to talk about food preservation. So of course you have a freezer, but what if, for example, you can't hook up a generator before the power goes off? Well, if that's the case, there are still ways to preserve some types of food. So right here, I have potatoes. I also have jars, jar lids. Most importantly, we have our salt. So salt, vinegar, jars, jar lids, vegetables of choice, and water. We go to the jar of produce. Make jar of produce. As you can see, we need water for this. 1 liter to be precise. So that would be, I believe, 1 bucket. 3 potatoes goes into a jar of produce. My character does not have the recipe, and I can see this here at the top right. So I don't have this recipe learned. I've gone ahead and spawned myself the appropriate magazine, which is American Homesteading. We're going to read this. So it's a magazine to keep an eye out for if you're interested in jarring produce. Now you can do this with other vegetables too. I should mention bell peppers, broccolis, cabbage, stuff like this. So basically anything that you would grow or you could find, you can jar up. And now this is preserved. Now, this will keep for a pretty long time. Won't keep forever, but it's pretty good. And just to demonstrate like how useful this is 3 potatoes. We open it up. As you can see, it is 74 hunger. The important thing is, once you've opened it, you cannot reseal it. So if you're going to be using this as a food, make sure that you're sure you want to open it before you do so. So I think the only thing we have left now is to prepare for winter. And like I say, our biggest thing there is our clothes. So I have picked out a place that I want to hit already. There is a clothing store nearby that we can go and hit. It's a bargain clothes store, which should be down to our south, I believe. So we're going to head to that bargain clothes store, and I think that's going to be our best bet. But if we had one close by, I would instead go to a military surplus store. Military surplus stores are amazing for winter clothing, survival tools. You can find things like tents, sleeping bags, survival knives, and usually they come with a locked room with like weapons and ammo as well if you're interested in firearms. So we may take a trip over to a military surplus store also. Here we are. This is bargain clothes. Drive around the back here. I saw a bunch of zombies out front. So I'm kind of hoping we haven't attracted too much attention. How much do you guys want to bet that there's an alarm on this? There's a lot of clothes in there. Okay, let's break this window. Might draw a few over, but I think I'd rather that than going around the front. Okay, so we're going to check this place out. We're looking for, this is the key thing. Now, what we're looking for here is the second stat on the list is insulation. We are looking for high insulation items. So things like a hoodie, for example, is a pretty decent one. So we'll grab ourselves a fresh hoodie. And of course, you can layer up as well. That's always something. So we've got a turtleneck sweater here, which is also good. So you can layer up. Things might not be that great in terms of insulation, but if you're layering them with other items, it soon builds. What I'm really after is padded pants, maybe a scarf or a winter hat. Whether we find them here or not, I don't know. It's kind of pot luck, honestly. But military surplus stores will almost certainly have that sort of stuff. Yeah, right now it's not looking like we're going to find those. It all looks like pretty summery clothing to me. Leather jacket. That's actually a really good item, just like generally speaking. Good protection values. Now back to the truck. So we got a couple of clothing items. Nothing incredible though. So our next best bet is a military surplus store, and that is going to be a bit of a drive for us. But it's all the way out past Phallus Lake in what is, or was, I think, colloquially called like Ekron. So we've got a bit of a drive ahead of us. So we're going to head out that way, and fingers crossed we get there without too many incidents. Came across this on the drive to the military surplus store. Just a fun little fact for you. Hodgett's Farm. Andy Hodgett's, one of the developers, I believe, for Project Zomboid. Yeah, just an interesting little tidbit of information. Anyway, not important to our long-term survival video, just thought it was interesting. And we'll continue the video once we reach the military surplus store. All right, here we go. So we're approaching our destination. There should be a military surplus store just down here. There's actually a bunker nearby here as well that was added in build 42. Holy, okay, they've beefed up the spawns on the military surplus store, eh? God damn. Okay, so this is probably related to the zombie spawn changes in recent updates, being based more around like what kind of loot you can expect to find in a building. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to be a little bit cheeky. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to hit my horn and I'm going to try and lure them sort of over here and then slip in around the back. So after using the horn a bit there, I can see they are indeed heading that direction. They're migrating. Now, I don't know if that's going to be enough. It might make it manageable though. Worst case scenario, if I don't think I can get in, what I'll do is I will use debug mode to show you guys the kind of loot within. However, of course, this this is at the end of shall we say, your long-term prep, right? This is pretty much your last goal once you've got your safe house set up. If it means coming to a crowded place like this, that might just be something you have to deal with. It's going to take you a long time to get through this many zombies. It will be a difficult goal, but it is at the end of your list of goals. Just come into this expecting this to be your most difficult challenge. But if you're looking at a playthrough that's going to go long enough to be sort of like a few months long, this might be what you need to do to get there. Just taking it nice and easy here. And again, you probably would be, if you've seen the other series we did here, then this would be something you'd already learned. But yeah, we're just trying to stagger the approach to the zombies by just walking just inside their view radius, trying to aggro a couple of them and pull them away from the group. So we're not just like pulling a massive group all at once. We're taking bite-sized chunks. Gives my character a little bit more time to recuperate between fights, lessen that muscle strain, and of course, the obvious, gives me a better chance of getting through them alive. Okay, excellent. Right. Can I find my way to a window or a door? Okay, so there's no guarantee that it's safe in here, so we do have to be careful. It does look safe, though. Question is it alarmed? Looking good. Now, straight away, we're seeing some very useful items from this surplus store. Aiming magazines. Worth me noting at this point, since they're here, aiming and reloading can be learned in build 42. It is a skill that can be learned that wasn't previously available like that in build 41. But what I'm looking for is things like this, a shamag. Look at the insulation stats on this item. Amazing for us, considering we're looking for winter survival stuff. So we're just going to wear that around our character's neck. Really, really good. Here we go. We've got a woolen hat here. We've got earmuffs, padded pants. These are the king of winter survival. You can see here the insulation and wind resistance is right up there. They are maxed out on insulation and wind resistance, so that's really, really cool. Handy knife. This is also a really good late game item that you should be on the lookout for. The handy knife gives you access to several tools that otherwise you would need to individually carry, such as screwdrivers, can openers, bottle openers, that sort of thing. Canteen, amazing. So canteens are really good. Canteens can be placed on a rig or a certain types of belts, I believe. So they can actually be placed on a rig, and that will sort of allow them to be put on the hot bar. Be careful here, make sure I don't take on more than I should. Okay, so we've got a couple of good items here. A machete, that's like a really, really good weapon. Also got a compass here, which will tell you, like, you can equip it and it'll tell you which way you're facing as well, which is kind of hilarious in Project Zomboid. This is actually a really cool item as well, the whistle. Using the whistle actually is like louder than yelling. So if you really want to attract like a lot of zombies and you want to pull them from an area, a whistle is a really good way to do so. But I think that's going to be it for us from here. At this point, we basically just need to bug out. And of course, if I had a sledgehammer, I could, or even just through here, I could break my way into this room and there will be a bunch of guns and ammo in there. But we're not too worried about that. We've got our hands on our winter clothing that we were after and several useful tools. Now we can just head back to the truck. But hopefully that helped to demonstrate how, even though that situation looked really, really difficult to get into, we didn't just need to just drive off. You know, there was a way for us to get around that. Hopefully that helps to show you that, you know, if you come into a similar situation, it is possible to get around these things. And as you learn the game more, challenges like that will seem a little bit easier. Just to very quickly show you the temperature menu here. So you can see here, it'll give me a decent idea of how cold or warm, where red symbolizes hot and blue symbolizes cold. Right now, obviously, it's summer. I don't really need to be worrying about the heat. But if I start layering on some warmer items, you can see that certain parts have now changed to an orange and are continuing to go towards this red color. But again, yes, this should give you an idea of how to monitor whether you are hot or cold. So with that, our safe house is complete and we are prepared for winter. I believe that brings us to the end of our long-term survival series. Hope you've enjoyed it. We will be making a super cut of this as well, so you can watch it all in one episode, which will be uploaded to the channel shortly after this. If there's any Project Zomboid series you'd like to see from me in the future, just let me know down in the comments. I would love to know what you guys would like to see from me, any other guides maybe that you think you would like to see as well. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching this series, and I will catch you in the next one.